I was looking through a couple of nursery rhyme books to find out how many rhymes had violence in them. There's many, but this rhyme kind of got my goat, may get your goat too. I thought it would, do this one next. So, as the rhyme goes, that we know, Georgie, Porgie, Puddin' and Pie kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie, Porgie ran away. This is a common nursery rhyme taught in kindergarten schools. I learned it. My children learned it. Maybe your children learned it, or your grandchildren are now learning it. It is quite likely I myself taught it to, my son. I didn't to my daughter without paying any attention to the words. I hope I am wiser now. And yes, some of the other children that I know have learned it too. So let us first analyze the character Georgie Porgie, because he's not exactly as what some people think. He was a bully and took pleasure in sexually harassing the girls. He was a coward as he ran away when the boys came out to play. He was an observer and strategist in that he came out to play only when the girls were alone. There have been plenty of Georgie Porgies around who bully and sexually harass girls and boys too. Take this case of LKG child who walked into school with an awkward gait. When the teacher inquired, she said her father had done something to her. On checking, she was red and bruised around the genitals. Or the fifth standard girl who went to school counselor afraid that she could be pregnant because her older cousin had made her watch pornography with them and touched her inappropriately. In almost every growing up session that have been conducted, especially with smaller groups of girls, someone has got to ask the question or share a concern prefacing with it. And this is happening to, maybe a friend, and you want to help her. I answer the question or concern knowing full well that she is talking about herself. I also tell her to meet me after the session, and then the pain and trauma spills out. So, it's a form of sexual harassment and bullying that happens every day. It's been happening as far back as history can be recorded. But Georgie Porgie was a coward. A bully at heart is afraid. Bullies are insecure in their feelings about themselves, and so that they fight that fear by causing fear in others or running away if they perceive they can be taken on, meaning that, they can't dish out and accept the same punishment. Georgie Porgie was an observer and strategist. He knew when the girls came out to play. All Georgie Porgie watch, observe, and plan their movements according to the Stairway Foundation. Sexual offenses begin much before the touching. They begin in the mind of the offender. He selects the target, then builds trust, often makes secret promises, escalates the sexualization of the relationship, executes. Moreover, in the case of children, they do not fully comprehend to give consent or refusal, and they are developmentally not prepared. So, let's take a look at the responses of the girls to Georgie Porgie's kissing. They cried. They probably felt helpless and afraid. Their response was the typical stereotype of a feminine gender. Girls and women are conditioned to behave in a way that has been dictated down the centuries, also conditioned to believe that they are to blame. The screams are silenced. Wasn't it strange that so many women came out after years and decades to join the Me Too campaign? What made them break their silence? Probably it was the belief that their voices will finally be heard because they came out in numbers. So basically, in this context, what is the origin of the word Eve teasing? The explanation of expression has always made me angry, but Eve tempted Adam And so somehow the woman is the temptress and deserves to be teased with an implied thought that she can be sexually abused. So that takes you back even into our religions. For those of us who follow a form of a Bible, doesn't mean all of us do, but just for this in particular nursery rhyme. So empowerment, therefore, has to start from a young age as possible, when children are taught not just about the good and bad touch, but more importantly, comfortable and uncomfortable touch. When her cheeks are pulled, if she is uncomfortable, she should be taught to object and yell out. Our children also need to be trusted and believed when they confide. So, waiting, for the long period of time before even coming out, that seemed to be the norm, or not speaking out at all. But Georgie Porgie, in himself, he wasn't a skinny kid. He wasn't the popular kid. He was pudgy, overweight, maybe obese for his time, who knows. And if you think about it back in that time, when they were around, most of the people's the tallest height was maybe 5'6", 5'8" at most. Majority of people were around the 5 foot mark. So you think about this, and back then, women didn't have many rights. Going back into the Iron Age, medieval times, if you want, of kings and queens. That maybe Georgie Porgie was of a pure blood, a royal, and he was doing this because he could. But then when the other boys came around and tried to put him in his place, he'd run away because he didn't want to have the conflict. Maybe something happened to him when he was a child, even younger, before he started doing this from his own family or somebody close, to the family to him. Who knows? But also at the same time, Georgie Porgie had some other weird antics that he did. I'll let you decide to go and do some research, a little extra, on Georgie Porgie himself. But to think about it now, you look at it, kissed the girls and made them cry because they were uneasy about what he was doing, and maybe the extra physical touching he was doing also made them cry besides just the kisses. And when the boys came out, he would run away because he was afraid, because they would attack him. That's the dark side of Georgie Porgie nursery rhyme. Until next time.